Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, listeners of this podcast. Today's episode will be the second episode that is recorded in cooperation with ICF Chapter Charter Slovenia, and is also the second one that is recorded in English language. So I believe that you will all understand what we will talk about and that it is also fine. Our guest today is Michael Nam, former manager who is now a coach, and he has a specific coaching style. He uses playfulness in coaching, and that's what I would like to talk about today. So, Michael, hello.
Hello, Matej, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah,
How's it going? Everything okay?
yeah, everything is going. I was already playful this morning when I was walking in the forest, even though it was raining.
Good.
So I'm okay, and I'm really looking forward to discuss with you. Yeah,
Yeah, great. Yeah, as I mentioned, I would like to talk about playfulness in coaching, but first thing first, tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Michael and what is your mission?
yeah. Who is Michael? That's a difficult question. Who am I? One of the biggest questions we have to answer ourselves. And mission is sounds also very big to me. So I'm Michael. I'm 54 years old, and at the moment I'm helping people on their growth journey. You know, I'm really passionate about helping them to make progress, and this in the field of business. So I'm coaching leaders and managers, and in order that it's sometimes not only serious, I put some playful moments in it because I really believe that play and playfulness is something really important and is part of our DNA as human beings.
It's great that you mentioned this importance because I just wanted to ask the first thing that about playfulness. That why do you think that it's important that we are playful? Why do you think that playfulness itself is important for us?
I mean, playfulness. Even if we maybe don't know it, it's something. It's something like sleeping, eating, some like digestion. It's a biological drive, and in the beginning, it comes from evolutionary. It comes from the animal world. Animals they learn a lot of things while playing, and if we consider us human beings as higher animals, we can also observe, especially in childhood, that we are learning a lot while playing, testing out things, experimenting. So playful is a part of our life, especially in the beginning, and sometimes later in our life it starts to erode.
Hmm. I was just listening to an Indian, like a guru guy. I don't know who it was actually, but he said if you are not approaching an activity in a playful way, the activity will slowly start killing you on a long run. So it is like our responsibility to be playful in all activities while living, and it sounded like a interesting thing because we usually forget about this, and then we start to become a bit miserable, and actually that activity actually is actually started to killing us slowly. So a good line, worth to mention and to share.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
And why do you think that we usually lose this playfulness in life?
Yeah. I mean, let me begin again a little bit with the childhood. As children, we don't need instructions to play. We find what we enjoy and we do it. And whatever rules are there to play, we learn it from our playmates. And this is also something very important. Playing, we are doing it very often when we are children together with others. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and we could even say that play in childhood helps to learn how the world works and how do we interact as people. But then, at a certain age, and sometimes it comes earlier, sometimes it comes later, sometimes it comes already in puberty, obligations come into our lives, can be already in puberty,
Mm.
you go to school, then you have after school work, then your parents send you to the karate club, then you have to learn an instrument, then you have to prepare for the tests. So already in that stage, playfulness can erode because of obligations.
Mm.
But definitely later in the world, as we grow older, we even sometimes feel guilty for playing because some people tell us this is not productive, this is not effective, this is even sinful to do it. So,
Yeah.
and then we take the playfulness out of our life, or when we play, it has to be very organized, rigid, or even competitive.
Mm. Mm.
And this is, if it becomes too competitive, I'm coming back to your Indian philosophy, then it's a real killer.
Mm. 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 Yeah, and it's about us being judgmental towards others people's judgments. We always have that voice in our head: what will other people think if I play like a child when I'm an adult? And yeah, but actually it's a good thing to play as a child. Yeah, but we forget about this. And
Yeah,
I, I just
yeah,
remembered we talked in our previous conversation regarding the importance of play from the physical point of view, that our body stays fit to, I don't know, sit on the ground and play. And I was just listening to Peter Attia. He's a doctor and also a podcaster who's training to be, he says, a centenarian Olympic. And this means that he's actually training to be able to play on the floor with his potential future grandchilds. He's now about, I don't know, 40, 50. I don't know how old is he, but he's training to be able to play when he will be 100. So that's a
yeah. And
good
it's
thing.
a very valid point, Matei. This is one of the things play is really doing and is really helping to develop. Play is helping to develop in our childhood our social thriving,
Mm.
emotional thriving, but also the physical thriving and the cognitive one. And to learn to physically thrive is one integral part of play. And I like this example that you train for the time when you're 100 years old to play with your grandchildren. Yeah, this gives me a smile in my mind already. Yeah,
Yeah, but usually we don't think about this like that. We think life goes on and what will happen will happen. But if we don't think about this now, we probably won't be able to sit down on the floor with our grandchilds.
yeah,
Regarding to our usual lifestyle today,
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
yeah. That's
sitting
it.
and so on. Yeah. Some people have like a strong inner child present up until some point, as we were already talking now,
Yeah.
and then this inner child somehow get suppressed. As you mentioned, it may happen in the school or maybe later in life. What do you think that this means for the development of the personality of a human being? How does this affect a person?
I mean, the first thing which comes to my mind, and I always say it, it's a quote from George Bernard Shaw, a literature prize Nobel winner from the UK, and he said, "We don't stop playing because we grow older. We grow older because we stop playing."
Good one.
And I think this is part of the answer. We are just not doing it anymore, and it disappears. And it disappears also, because we are judged for it. May I tell you a little story I really lived 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please do.
So 3 weeks ago we celebrated the 80th birthday of my father, and it was a group of around 30 people who met, and I all know them, some relatives and some friends. And there was the little girl of my cousin, and she had a puppy in her hand. And when I was sitting next to her, I was saying, yeah, you have an animal puppy. And it's really true. In the morning, I was walking outside and I saw some sheeps. And I told her, I saw some sheeps and they are doing, "Nah." And she was smiling. I was really doing that. But when I doing that, I saw the first people turning around the head, And I continued my conversation with her, and the unexpected happened. She asked me, "Do you also know to imitate a wolf?" And then I said to myself, should I really do it? I'm sitting here with 30 people. I'm talking about playfulness and I'm promoting it, but I had my doubts. So I was doing the wolf, woo, and then she asked me about the horse, and then I did the horse. I did, and she was completely amazed, and more people were turning around, and some people were smiling, but some people who know me for more than 40 years, they were really severely looking at me. So this is a little bit to illustrate in a small story what can happen when you're playful as an adult in yourself, but also how is it could be seen or perceived from the outside.
Yeah, and we are usually afraid of this other people's opinion, or we value it too much, putting themselves in front of ourselves, and stop playing.
Yeah.
This happens. We mentioned at the beginning that you decided to include playfulness into your coaching methodology. What is the decision behind this? Why did you decide to do that?
I mean, very often people come in my coaching practice, and let's face it, they have serious problems they want to talk about in their work, and sometimes also in their life. And I decided to bring it in, the playfulness, to make some moments in our conversation a little bit lighter, you know to feel a little bit uh, the lightness. And there is a book, which is called Playful Intelligence. I have it now in my hand. It's from David. It's from Anthony de Benedett, and the subtitle of the book is "The Power of Living Lightly in a Serious World." And I think this is a good resume or a good summary why I'm doing it. I really would like, to help my clients and those human beings working with me to live some lighter moments during the coaching sessions. And also, for sure, rediscover their own, as you said before, their own inner child, and to play more in life.
And what are your observations? How the clients respond to this playfulness?
I mean, it is very important that it is introduced, in a very trustful way. I cannot come in a coaching session in the first or even in the second session, and then starting to play with this thing. For instance, I'm doing it because we're in a podcast. I cannot do this if I have not an agreement that we use playfulness in coaching. So playfulness, especially to adults, as it has eroded during adult life, it has to be slowly reintroduced. So cautiously and with trust, I reintroduce it as something. And then it's something, it's like when you eat something very tasty, you would like to eat more of it if it's beneficial for you. That's the way I'm bringing it in. Yeah.
Yeah, and how it is for you as a coach? Do you have more fun doing it in this way?
I mean, I have to admit one thing. For sure, I'm doing it for the client because the client has some benefits in the long run. But I'm also doing it egoistically for myself because I want to also live moments of playfulness together with other people. this is my fuel. This is why I get up in the morning. So there is there is one part which is dedicated to the playmate, but there is one part which is really dedicated to myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. And you also, actually, we met at the workshop. If I also tell a bit of the background, at the workshop where you introduced us with your coaching game that you created. What if, where next is the title
Yeah.
of the game. So that's why we are also having this conversation today. Could you tell us a bit more about your game? How does it work? What is the meaning behind the game?
Yeah. So is it allowed to tell a little bit how the idea came up for the game also?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, at a certain stage of my life, that was in 2017, 2018, I was traveling a lot. I was basically flying out on Monday and coming back on Thursday, on and there was a lot of time, where nothing happened. So I took my mobile phone and I took a lot of photos on my travels, but not photos of houses or trees or whatever. I took photos of quotes like, "What's your superpower? We could be heroes. Slow, co-queen, eat, sleep, drink." Quotes which I saw in magazines, which I saw on billboards, which I saw everywhere where I was moving. And I said to myself, one day I will do something with that. And on one of my flights back, I was waiting for a taxi and I was standing in front of the counter of a car leasing company, and there was a folder. And on this folder was written in red language, "What if?" And at that moment, the idea of the game was born. I said to myself, yeah, what if, where next? And I put the quotes in the middle. And another motivation to do a game, with the serious title "What if, where next?" is to make it accessible to adults. I wanted to mix the adult reality of seriosity with the fantasy of the childhood. So, and now, it's difficult to discuss about a game you play when you're not playing it. So it's difficult to say, but the basic idea is, to make something where adults can seriously play together. Yeah. Yeah, and you have been part of the playing session. So how was it for you? What did you experience?
You know, it was probably I applied for that workshop because of the same reason that we talked about in the beginning. When I saw the title, I said, I simply am playing just when I'm with my kids, and I don't have any playfulness in my life in other areas of my life. It's always serious, job wise or anyhow, whatever is happening. And I said, I will apply to see what will happen if I join this workshop where playfulness will be actually the topic. And it was strange, or maybe hard to start with the game, because I'm not used to play the game without the rules. And the first round that you that you let us play, it was like, here's the playboard. Do whatever you want. You can throw the dice, or maybe not. You can move left, right, or wherever you want. And it was strange for me, because I'm used to have a structure. I'm used to have some kind of instruction how to play the game. And I think the three of us, which were in the group, were just looking at each other. How does this actually work? What do we have to do? Will we use dice? Will you use dice? It was the first round was confusing, but the other round, when you said that we can choose the playboard which we think it will be beneficial for us, then I think we all started to look at the game differently. Then we have, each of us had our own playboard, and the rules actually were made, but were made by myself for myself. So I said, I will throw a dice and move into the right, and I will use that playboard because I think that it will get me to the result that I want to get at the end due to that quotes which were on the playboard. So the second round was really great. The first round was confusing for me because I think I was lost in my head how to play it, why there are no rules, and so on. So these are limitations which we are used to have in life, and yeah, lack of playfulness was showing up in that first round.
Yeah. I remember when we did the debriefing of the first round, the lady who was playing in your group, she said, "Oh my God, I always wished, to get freedom and the liberty to do what I want, and now I have been given, to play without rules, and it was awfully difficult to do it." Yeah,
Yeah, I often talk to people about freedom because it's also one of my core values, and I saw that the most freedom that people have is when they have really structured habits, when they know what to do when they get up in the morning, and that structure of life gives them freedom because they don't have to think how they will plan, how the day will actually goes on. And when they have a complete freedom to travel, to have money, to do everything, they're pretty much confused. People don't know how to react to that, what to do, whether to go somewhere or not to go somewhere. So actually we don't know how to use freedom.
yeah. Sometimes it's difficult, and you have been mentioning, that the first round when we played was more difficult for you. You said it was confusing. And this brings me to another aspect of play. There is complete free play, which I exposed the whole group in the first round. And then there is the second thing, which is so-called structured play, where you establish a certain number of rules, where you give a framework, and then you play. And yeah, it's also part of the game, that you as a group had the opportunity to experience both. What do you feel and experience when you play completely free, and what do you experience and feel when you play with some structure?
Mhm.
That's also one intention behind the game, to feel those differences.
And you use this game uh, for teams, for team coaching, and also for individuals. I mean, we used it for my own self, like individuals in the workshop. But you mentioned that you also use it for teams.
Yeah, I mainly use it for teams because of the dynamics. As I said in the beginning, playing on our own is fine and it's important, but having playmates around us is amplifying the play experience. So I mainly propose it to play it with teams, to amplify uh, those kind of play effects you have. It fosters laughter, creativity, innovation, and a lot of good things. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was great experience for me, and I believe that if it is played with a team and with an intention, it also not just it also brings people together. Like you mentioned, playfulness is also have this social aspect, and it is important probably for a team of people that they have to maybe to came up with the rules how to play it, and then also to move further along the game to get to the result.
Yeah, and that's it. And another aspect I was not mentioning so far, when we were doing the play session in the framework of the ICF Slovenia Charter Chapter. You know, nobody was forced to come. There was an invitation, and you could come or not. So play. This is one really important feature of play. It's voluntary. And when I'm doing play session with companies, and I'm contracting, for instance, with the HR department, how we are doing it, I tell them it has to be voluntary. Those team members who don't want to participate for whatever reason, they should not be forced into it. This is very important about play, the voluntary aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is important probably not just with playfulness. I think that this is the problem, the overall coaching problem with companies, because people are sent to have coaching sessions, and they can see it just as time out of the office, and don't take it seriously. And at the end of the day, no one gets out of the session anything. Uh, the client which is sent to the session by the company, if the client does not participate fully, then it's probably waste of time for him, or just a free time, and also for the coach. So this is I think that this is often a problem, this aspect of being present like a volunteer, that I agree fully to go into the coaching session.
Yeah.
Great. So where can people see the game? How can people get in touch with your game?
It's easy. They can get in touch with me, and then they will get in touch with the game if they are interested. So yeah.
As you mentioned, you usually use it for companies.
Yeah.
If it's not a usual approach that someone approaches you for a one-on-one session and says, "Can we use the game for our coaching session today?" Or is this possible also to arrange it in this way?
I mean, sometimes I'm using it also in a one-to-one session. I play together with the client the game, and when I say I play together, it's really that I'm also playing as a coach, and I'm also presenting a challenge I am in,
Yeah,
and
great, great.
discussing. So it's not that I'm only that I let play the other person and I'm observing it. No, this is not working. So we play together. That's that's one that's one thing. And I didn't get really what you wanted to ask me with the question. What was the question? What were you interested in?
And no, the question was just if the game is meant only for teams, or if me, as I don't know, some individual who am, if I would be your client, if I can also agree that, if you can also agree with me that we would play the game for my coaching
Yeah, yeah.
as my
Then
coaching session.
then we would play it, the two of us. But I would be also one player. Yeah, not
Yeah,
only an observer. Yeah,
yeah, great, great.
yeah,
I just have that thought earlier in our conversation when you said that you slowly somehow prepare the client to get back into this playful mode. And it is interesting. You also mentioned that as kids, we usually have this playfulness. It's normal to be playful, to have playfulness. We somehow, when we were kids, we managed to play with whatever, wherever. It was normal. But when you're adult, you have to somehow get used to it and slowly get into it. It's strange how we detached from this topic.
yeah, yeah. But there is hope. There is hope outside. I would say because you can get it back. You can get your playfulness back, and there are some stuff you can do. If you allow me, I will only offer our listeners one
Okay.
little exercise. It's written in a book which is called The Self Factor,
Okay.
from Duncan Kobok. And the subtitle is The Power of Being You. And at a certain stage in his book, he is talking about creativity. And he asked the following three questions. And I think if you answer those three questions, you can already gain a little bit playfulness back. So he asked, what did you love to do when you were a young child? Is the first question. How much do you do that now? Second question. Third question, how could you start to bring more of that in your life?
Yeah,
So
good one.
this is a little exercise I offer to our listeners to to start with, and you will see some of the playfulness will come back. Another way, which is very basic, and we have been discussing that in the beginning when you talked about the grandfather training physically to be ready to play at 100, is to start moving.
Mm.
Really, to start moving. Do movements. You can do movements in your apartment. You can do movements outside. This will also help you to become more playful. It sounds maybe crazy, but if you start moving and start wherever you want to move, it will help you. Yeah, this is one thing, and then one other thing, and free yourself from fear. Really, free yourself from the fear. What others will, for instance, think if, and I'm doing it, if I hug a tree in the forest. So sometimes I'm hugging a tree because I like the force of the and the power of a tree, and this that it's so that it's so grounded in the
Mm,
earth,
mm,
and I feel the groundedness, and then it helps me to. And then sometimes people pass by, but I'm no more scared, what they think of me. I continue to hug the tree. So what I want to encourage you, free yourself from your fear to be playful. Yeah.
Yeah, this is also what we talked about. What others will think of me when I'm being playful. So I think this is an important part with this playfulness. I have probably the same fear with dancing.
Yeah.
I simply don't like dancing. It's not that I don't like dancing. I just am not feeling comfortable with dancing, and then I always have this in my head. Okay, I'm moving there strangely. People will look at me and make fun of me, and I have these judgments about other people's opinion. But actually, it doesn't matter if I'm having fun. If it's okay, I should do it. And yeah, you've got point here. So for everyone who is listening, answer those three questions, and then think about what's your fear with connected with playfulness, and do that thing and try to overcome that fear. So that's crucial.
Yeah.
Great. Do we have anything to add regarding your game?
No, not related to the game, but you know, maybe one aspect which is very close to my heart also. You know, in adulthood, sometimes if we play for the sake of competition and competitiveness, and this is, as you said, sometimes an obstacle, to feel the real benefits of play.
Hmm, hmm.
And I wanted to bring this in and tell a little story, because for instance, in tennis we sometimes say Nadal is playing against Federer. We have this, is playing against. And I want to offer you, to the listeners, to say Nadal is playing with Federer, even though they play in US Open and it's a competition, but they play together with each
Hmm,
other.
hmm.
And And I bring this story because I was very touched of the farewell of Federer a couple months ago. He was speaking and he had tears in his eyes in his farewell. But you know who was the person who cried most in this very moment, sitting in the second row?
No.
It was Rafael Nadal, you know, his biggest competitors. And there you could see what he felt. He felt that he lost somebody with whom he was playing, not against he was playing. And I have still goosebumps here now when I'm telling it, this magic moment. So I wanted to bring this up. We are not as adults playing against each other. We can also take it positively and play with each other.
Yeah, thank you for this piece of wisdom. We should embody this and be aware of this. Yes, great. But since we are on this podcast, I usually also have some usual standard questions, which are meant to be introduced to all the guests, and I would like to also have some of these questions with you. And the first one is, what is your definition of success, and who do you associate the word success with, and why?
Yeah, that's really a great question, and it's a deep question. But finally, for me, really is because we have been talking about freedom before, and success is if you live the life you want to live. And I stress you want to live. And if you don't live the life others expect you to live. So this is really for me success if you reach that state. And for this, for sure, you need to define your values. You said before one of your values is freedom. And you also have to have the courage to implement your values in your day-to-day routines.
Yeah,
So this is what I would say is success. Yeah.
yeah, great, great. You already mentioned, I think, two books while we were talking, um, which I will also link in show notes, so everyone will be able to have a shortcut to find those books online. Do you have any book, podcast, documentary, something that has helped you in your life, and you would like to share this also with our listeners? Because
Yeah,
it's
for sure. If you're talking about books, I have not been mentioning the most important book where I learned a lot of about play. It's the book called Play from Dr. Stuart Brown. He's also the founder of the National Institute of Play in the United States. Um, in this book, you get all the foundation, from different aspects, evolutionary, biologically, socially, and so on. So Dr. Stuart Brown, Play. This is really, if you want to learn more about play, this is the book to read. Yeah, it's a bestseller. So yeah, but what was inspirational for me also is something completely different. It's the wisdom of Robert Kiyosaki, I think. He was writing the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it was fascinating to me, that he was saying if you start working, you have to build your asset column, from your money. Don't spend all your money, build your asset column, because from your assets you will live later on. And I think this was one of the most inspiring learnings. And I only did what he was saying in his book, and it allowed me to be completely independent at the age of 49. So that was really inspirational, and I'm grateful to one of my co-workers from Mexico at that time that he offered me that book. Yeah.
yeah,
So
great,
that's it. And the
great.
second thing, which is really inspirational, is for me to be in the nature and to be together with trees, which I already mentioned when I was talking a little bit earlier. Yeah.
Great. Um, what was the advice that was the most beneficial for you in your life?
Yeah. It was an advice of my first boss when I was starting to work for a big corporation when I was 25, and I didn't get it in the beginning what he was telling to me, but I got it over the years and I really implemented into my life. And he said to me, Michael, one thing is very important in corporate life when you meet a lot of people. Everybody's darling is nobody's darling. And remember that. And I remembered it. And it makes life so much easier when you don't depend anymore whether people like you or not like you. And yeah,
Yeah,
that
great,
was a great advice.
great. And hypothetically, if you would have a chance to meet your younger self, what would then be the advice that you would give to yourself?
Yeah, let me think about it. Yeah, for definitely take more risks. Yeah, take more risks and be ready sometimes also to mess up. You know, because sometimes in the upbringing, I was experiencing. You know, my parents were very much caring about myself and about my education, and that everything, as we say, goes right.
Mm,
So I would advise to myself, Michael, or to my smaller Michael, yeah, you can take more risks and you can sometimes also really mess up. It's okay.
it's
In the
okay.
long run, everything will be fine.
Yeah, great, great. Good. We covered quite some ground during our conversation, but is there something that we didn't mention and you would like to share it with us because you think it's important for you to share it?
Yeah, I would like to share something for two colleagues of mine, two coaches, two very courageous coaches, two ladies in the UK. It's Stephanie Wheeler and Teresa Lehman, and they are writing the first book about playfulness in coaching at the moment. And it will be called Playfulness in Coaching, and it comes on the market in July 2020, 2023. And you know, I in this podcast I would like to acknowledge the courage they have to write about this topic and to bring out a book. So this is really close to my heart to say thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Teresa, that you will contribute to the topic playfulness in coaching very
Great,
strongly.
great. Yeah, I'll be glad to link the book, but the book is not out yet.
Yeah.
So maybe I will add this when it will come out, or maybe we can also arrange a podcast episode and talk to them about the book and about playfulness. That would be also an interesting thing if it will be an option. We'll see.
Yeah.
We will
It's
see.
always check your options. Yeah.
Yeah, great. We already said that people can find you online. Which platforms are you on? LinkedIn?
I'm no, I'm only on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm reducing my presence on LinkedIn because to be present on too many platforms
Mm.
is a burden for me, you know.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah.
takes time and energy.
Yeah.
So great. I will put also in my show notes link to your LinkedIn page. So if anyone would like to get in touch with you, LinkedIn is the place, and they can find you. Uh, or probably also, is there some website or something
Yeah,
that you can?
there is also a little website from my company. My company is called Discover Your Fingerprint.
Great.
This is maybe also interesting. So because I believe that we are all unique because no one else has the same fingerprint than ourselves, and this is also another, let's say, another part of my coaching values, to let people discover their fingerprint and to create some impact. So yes, I have a website. Long answer to a short question: www.discoveryourfingerprint.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I will also put a link in the description, so it will be all there. So then I would like to thank you for your time, for this, that you take your time for this discussion, and that you were prepared to openly share your wisdom with us. It means a lot to me, and I think that we also somehow put some interesting and useful topics out to the listeners, and I hope that they will find value in our conversation. So thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you, Matej, once again for having me, and yeah, have a playful time ahead.
Yeah, thanks.